Welcome back, folks. This is Athletes Incorporated. Check us out on Roku TV, ibtv.us, and YouTube. Comment and subscribe. Like what we got going on. This is our third segment, and it's a special Mother's Day edition segment. And Harold, I want you to talk a little bit about, our special edition we got going on. I think it's going to be very educational for you folks and some stuff that I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, folks, we have great female athletes, so many of them mothers. There's a little history going all the way back to 1964. Probably our first really famous female Olympian was Wilma Rudolph. And a lot of people don't know that Wilma Rudolph was a mother. She had a child before she ran in the Olympics. She ran for Tennessee State, Tiger Bells. That's when that was a legendary black team. And Wilma Rudolph first one to win 3 gold medals. She also was the person that, it's funny, when the East Germans and Russians started running well and the United States was trying to figure out what they were doing, well, come to find out, they had their mechanics and stuff off Wilma Rudolph. So here we have the greatest, but we're around looking for different things. There's just been very, just a number of great female athletes, folks, and on Mother's Day, trying to celebrate that, and given some of the things that, are a little more infamous than other people. We can go straight to the Tanya Harding situation. There's the movie, I, Tonya. If you haven't seen that, folks,
check it out.
It really outlines how crazy this thing was, but she was a great figure skater. The United States has always had great figure skaters. That's a sport that we have, that women have excelled on an international level. Our gymnastics, I think women's gymnastics is so far ahead of men's gymnastics in terms of popularity, in terms of just the joy of watching what they can do. That's another sport. Basketball wasn't always a women's sport, but now that we have great women basketball players, I think, in my mind anyway, the woman that really got us on the road to pay attention to basketball was Cheryl Miller.
Okay.
And of course her brother was great, Reggie. And they have, her and Reggie have great stories about they would go win all kind of money because he'd say, well, I'll play with my sister, so anybody would play him. And of course, Cheryl would take him to town. Now my background, folks, is in track and field a lot. I've coached Olympic athletes at that level, been head coach at the college level. And a lot of people don't realize that when we talk about steroids, no one really pays attention to or thinks that how involved it has been with women in steroids, in particular in our track and field. And before we go into that, though, we'd like to acknowledge just the great tennis players that we've had who are mothers. Serena Williams, who not only, folks, is I think the greatest female tennis player ever, but she's arguably one of the greatest athletes ever to be on any court or any field. Her sister is great. Althea Gibson, who was the first really great tennis player. Babe Zaharis Dickerson was a great tennis player, golf. So we have some great women who have always contributed to athletics. On the boxing side, I still don't think anyone's come close to Layla Ali. Just a beautiful boxer. Still the only female that I've seen that can really put punches together and throw. But when you go to track and field, folks, which is where steroids, it's prevalent throughout all sports. In the 80s, folks, I just want you to pay attention to. In the 80s is when the steroid era was really big. And we have, most of you have heard of Florence Griffith.
Yeah.
Florence Griffith's world record, folks. Flojo's record is 10:49. Last year, the best time in the world was only 10:85. That's not just if you know track and field, folks, that's so far. The best American only ran 10:98. That's like 11 seconds. And when she was, and I think it's known, there were some PEDs there. She has thrown the women's records off by 50 to 100 years. Flojo's record in the 200 meters, folks, 21:34. Last year, the best time in the world, 22. The 400 by Marita Koch East Germany, 1985. You got to think, folks, 85. This record is held up to. She ran 47.60. My God. The best time in the world last year was 50 seconds. She ran 47. The 800, this is one. Jarmila Kraktovolovich from Czechoslovakia, set back in 83, folks. She ran 153. Best time in the world, 156. Best American, 159. These are unbelievable. The mile, 96, set back in 1996, lady from Russia, 412. Best mile last year, 426. 412, 426. 3,000 record was set in 1993. She ran 8:06. The best time in the world last year, 3:29. 06 to 29. Here's one, folks, that's just unbelievable. The mile relay record is still held by the Soviet Union in Seoul, Korea in 1988. They ran 3:15. Best time in the world last year, 3:23. And the Americans that ran 3:23 last year were 100, almost 200 meters ahead. Yeah. These women would have been that far ahead of them. Some of these jump records are just, it's unbelievable. The high jump record, world record for women, is 6'10 and a quarter. That was in 87. 6'10 and a quarter. Last year, the best jump in the world was 6'8, best American, 6'5. Long jump, 25 down to 25 feet, 88. Soviet Union. Our best last year, 22. Shot record, 87, Soviet Union. She threw 74 feet. Best throw last year was 64 feet, Trey.
Why is it that women...
Let me ask you, back then, wasn't steroids a legal substance? So I mean, it's unfair to say that today...
No.
Answer that. I don't know,
yeah,
but wasn't it legal?
It was illegal then.
It was, okay.
If you go back to the 60s, early 70s, there was no testing.
Okay.
But by the time you get here, it was. And the East Germans and the Russians are the ones that perfected
So they were valid records. Good.
Yes. Well, these are valid records because they didn't test positive. Mm-hmm. But were they PED? Of course they were. Jackie Joyner Kersey, who is, legendary. She holds a heptathlon record. That's equivalent to the men's decathlon. She set that in 88 in Seoul, Korea. 7,291 points. Best last year, 63. She beat that by 1,000 points. And that was in 1988. So we're talking about 30 years ago. 30 years ago. Now, just something for folks to understand. A guy named Chuck Debus and his protege is Bobby Kersey. They the foremost in what to do. And none of their people ever came up testing positive. So, I think the record should stand because that's what people are doing to try to get better. But we have some beautiful track and field records here in Denver. Great. Yolanda Johnson, Carol Smith, probably the best mother, his Mother's Day, probably the best mother athlete duo would be tandem would be Brenda Chambers and David Oliver. Yeah. Brenda's still one of the best hurdlers ever in high school, and then went on to the University of Colorado, where she should be, if she's not in the Hall of Fame. Of course, David Oliver, just an Olympic bronze medalist, world champion, held the U.S. record at one point. So we have just great folks from the Manual High School. Pam Green ran in two Olympics. She ran she ran for the Denver All Stars and then the Colorado Flyers. So we've had great female athletes right here in the state of Colorado who have really performed.
And not on a different tip, not on track, but Becky Hammond. She went to Colorado State.
The basketball, absolutely the best basketball player in the state of Colorado collegiately. She's not from Colorado, but she played at CSU, and certainly now is doing groundbreaking work in coaching. Probably will be the first female to coach a male team, which is something that really needs to happen. She's more than deserving. Carol Smith, who has now become the first director of track and field operations for the University of Southern California, the Trojans. Yolanda Johnson now is sprint and hurdle coach at Michigan State. Yeah. So we have great young ladies who went to different public schools or went to college here who are doing great things. But listen, ladies, we're going to bring this to an end. Again, Happy Mother's
Happy
Day.
Mother's Day.
Those are the women that we love the most in our life, our moms. Have a good one.